There's some interesting news regarding Sony's strategy for PS Plus. We also have a ton of new info on upcoming games, like a gameplay reveal for The Blood of Dawnwalker, an update on Pragmata and Resident Evil Requiem, and a 10-year-old game received a surprisingly good update this week, so let's go over all of it. And real quick, in case you're worried by the change of voice, Jordan is currently on holiday and will be back for the Sunday vid next week, but in the meantime, I'll be stepping in to make sure you still get all the news. We received an interesting update on the future of PlayStation Plus, specifically on the pattern of games releasing on the extra and premium tiers. This is all thanks to an interview from Stephen Totilo, who spoke to PlayStation's Vice President of Global Services, Nick McGuire. He states the service is doing well, as it is growing faster on PS5 than it did on PS4, while also noting that the overhaul to the 3-tier system in 2022 surpassed our expectations. The higher tiers of the service are also very popular, with premium seeing a growth of 18% over the last year, and almost 40% of all PS Plus subscribers have signed up for either the extra or premium tier. But the most interesting bit of info from this interview regards the release of first-party titles on the subscription service, so here's what Nick had to say. Our strategy of finding 4 or 5 independent day-and-date titles and using that to complement our strategy of bringing games in when they're 12, 18 months old or older, that balance for us is working really well across the platform. To clarify that a little bit further, day-and-date titles refers to day 1 releases being on PlayStation Premium and Extra, so look at Blueprints and FBC Firebreak for recent examples. But those other games McGuire is referring to are Sony first-party titles, so that means big titles like Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yotei will only become available a year after release at the earliest. Take God of War Ragnarok for example, which released in November 2022 and was added to the Plus library at the start of this year. Of course, exceptions can always be made, but this is arguably the biggest difference between PlayStation Extra and Premium and Xbox Game Pass, where something like Outer Worlds 2 is immediately playable through the service the moment the game releases. And yeah, to state the obvious, of course I'd like it more if Sony first-party titles would appear as part of your subscription on day 1, but McGuire's story makes it clear that whatever they're doing right now is working for them. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If these numbers change, it's possible Sony adapts their strategy and reconsiders releasing first-party titles day 1, but for the foreseeable future, don't expect a big shakeup in the release schedule for PlayStation Extra and Premium. We also received news on some big Capcom titles thanks to a recent showcase, including some gameplay details on their upcoming new IP Pragmata. And it looks pretty interesting, as the main character Yu and his android companion Diana really have to work together. The robots you fight in this game are heavily armored, meaning you need to hack them with Diana to open up these armor plates and create weak spots that Yu can then target with his weapons. This makes combat much more tactical, especially when you're attacked by multiple enemies, as you need to choose which one to expose and hit first. Defensively, Yu seems very adept at using the thrusters of his spacesuit to dodge, and these can also be used during the exploration of the space station where the game seems to take place. While I'm not sold yet, there are definitely some interesting ideas here, so I'll keep an eye out for more Pragmata in the future. Now, a game that I am definitely going to play on release is Resident Evil Requiem, which we also learned a little bit more about during the showcase. We will play as Grace Ashcroft, who works for the FBI as an intelligence analyst. While her background means that she is trained to use firearms, the devs have said that Grace is more introverted and easily scared, making her rather different from previous series protagonists like Leon or Jill. And speaking of previous entries, Requiem will also mark our return to Raccoon City, 30 years after the city's destruction due to the T-virus outbreak. So definitely expect some Easter eggs or story references to prior characters as well. Gameplay wise, not much is known yet, but the biggest new feature we know about is the ability to freely switch between first and third person. Finally, the showcase also revealed some exciting and free new content for Monster Hunter Wilds, as 2 new monsters are being added with the next title update. One is the long-awaited Lagiacrus, who even has a little segment of underwater combat as part of his fight. And the surprise new addition is Seregios, a fast and flying monster who can shoot his sharp scales to cause bleeding. The update also adds quality of life features such as transmog for your weapons, and it's already coming out on June 30th. And by the way, if you enjoyed the video so far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as we do one of these weekly news videos every Sunday. This week we also got our first proper look at gameplay gameplay for the Blood of Dawnwalker, the vampire-themed RPG being developed by ex-CDPR staff. And Rebel Wolves is implementing a ton of unique features for this game that have me really excited. The biggest one is the effect day and night will have on gameplay. During the day, protagonist Cohen is a proficient sword fighter, and as long as he's not wanted by the ruling vampires, can simply move around towns like he's a regular citizen. Combat's also looking pretty fun, by the way, with a directional input system for both your attacks and incoming enemy strikes, so somewhat similar to KCD2 in that regard. But at night, Cohen's vampiric powers activate, which means you can fight with your claws and use your newfound abilities to walk up walls or shadow step across rooftops. Obviously, places are more guarded at night, so you'll need these powers to find new ways to access buildings you can just walk into during daytime. You also have 3 separate skill trees, one for daytime powers, one for vampiric powers, and a shared one, so Cohen will get much stronger as both a sword fighter and as a vampire. But to me, the most interesting part of the game is the quest design, as right from the get-go you have the main objective to save your family, and if you want to risk going straight to the final boss to save them, you can actually try that. There's also a timer attached to this quest, but the devs clarified it does not actually work like a ticking clock. Time is more like a resource you can spend on certain activities. So think more Persona and less Majora's Mask, as I think those chunks under the day-night meter will actually function like a resource that you can spend to progress a quest or something. But yeah, this game is looking very interesting, so I'm excited for the release somewhere in 2026. Now it's time for some quick shots, gaming news that I want to go over quickly. We have some new info on Phantom Blade Zero, the pretty awesome looking Chinese action game that has always impressed me with its trailers. We should be getting a lot of new info about the game soon, as the studio behind it is hosting a massive demo event at the end of next month, featuring an all-new demo of the game. But we also got some early treats, as a developer letter concerning the demo event reveals some new info about the game. The biggest thing the team wants to emphasize is that Phantom Blade Zero does not really fall into a traditional genre we know. They want to stress that it is neither a Souls-like nor a traditional action game like DMC or Ninja Gaiden. A big part of comparing it to a Souls-like is of course the difficulty, and we learned some more info about this as well. The game will actually have 3 difficulty settings. Game Changer, which is the standard and offers a balanced blend of challenge and fun. Then there's Wayfarer, an easier mode for those with little to no experience with action games, and Hellwalker, the highest difficulty. This mode does more than just increase enemy damage, as you'll face smarter AI, reshuffled movesets, and entirely new moves exclusive to this mode. And Hellwalker actually only unlocks in New Game Plus, which I'm not sure if that was confirmed yet, but now we know, and yeah, that obviously makes a second playthrough a lot more interesting. While there's no release date yet, the studio is planning to reveal when the game will be in our hands before the end of the year. Okay, now let's throw it back to an older game, as Dying Light received a big new update this week. And yeah, you heard me correctly, I'm talking about the first Dying Light, which is over 10 years old already. While it is not a full-on remaster, the retouched update adds a ton of texture improvements, which is especially visible on more metallic surfaces, and shadows have seen big improvements as well. The soundtrack has actually received a full-on remaster, and hit reaction sounds in the game have received a significant boost, making your hits feel like they hit harder. And the best part is, all of this is being released as a free update on all platforms excluding the Switch, but that does include last-gen consoles, although the blog post does note that the level of changes may vary per platform. I already felt the game held up pretty well, but after jumping back in to check out the update, it definitely looks and sounds even better now. And the timing is of course perfect, as protagonist Kyle Crane is also the main character in the next entry in the franchise, The Beast, which is coming out this August. And we finally got a release date for Little Nightmares 3 this week. After being delayed last year, we now learned the title is coming out on October 10th. The news was revealed alongside a new trailer and new gameplay, which shows the two protagonists Lo and Alone make their way through a rather creepy carnival. If this looks like your kind of game, pre-orders are now open, and the game is releasing on PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And this coming week sees the release of Mecha Break on July 2nd, which is a third-person team-based mecha shooter that you might remember from the pretty cool trailer they showcased at Summer Games Fest. Other than that, it's a relatively quiet week, which gives me plenty of time to check out that new Monster Hunter update that's dropping on Monday. Jordan will also be back on Monday discussing the gaming news on the weekly stream, and you can of course expect another news roundup video at the end of the week. So subscribe to not miss it, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and you can watch the previous Sunday news roundup by clicking on the screen. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.